The 1.5 update for Zenless Zone Zero is upon us, and obviously we're going to be getting Astra Yao, the new Ether support character, but we are getting our first rerun character, which is going to be Ellen. And even though we had Miyabi in the previous update, in my opinion, Ellen is still one of the strongest characters in the game. So if you've been looking for an updated build guide for Ellen, I got you. I'm going to be covering exactly how her kit works, what upgrade materials you're going to need, on top of your W engine options, best drive discs, teams, and more. Let's not waste any time and dive right into it. If you are debating on pulling for Ellen, her strengths do include having a very powerful ultimate and dash attack. Secondly, she has some of the fastest movement in the game with her roaming state. And number 3, she's great on ice teams and can increase her own damage as long as you have her additional ability proc. Like I mentioned, Ellen is an ice attack character who falls under the Victoria Housekeeping faction with a focus on crit rate and crit damage. And obviously when you deal ice damage, you'll build up the anomaly and you can perform the freeze, shatter, and frostbite effects. And if you want to get her up to max level, here are all the materials you're going to need. To get the attack chip material, all you have to do is come to the HIA club, talk to Bertha, go under combat simulation, press on age of promotion, and then do the attack drill. For what skills to prioritize upgrading first on Ellen, obviously her core skills are a big one, but for her regular skills, I would recommend first your basic attack, then your special, your ultimate, then lastly your dodge, and then assist. And here are all the materials you're going to need to upgrade these skills. Obviously for the ice chips, if you come back under combat simulation and press on agent skill, you can do the icing test. For your A rank material, if you come under expert challenge, you're going to need to fight the notorious Doulahan for his material. And for your notorious hunt material, you're going to have to fight the dead end butcher for his hand. To understand how Ellen's kit works and how to maximize her damage, we need to understand how to get flash freeze charges. The unique thing with Ellen's kit is that if you double tap her dodge button, you'll enter what's called the roaming state, which makes her one of the fastest characters in the game. But this leads into her dash attack, the Arctic Ambush, which has 2 different attacks. The first attack is just by pressing your basic attack button at the target, which is considered swift scissors strike. You'll deal ice damage and you'll gain 1 point of a flash freeze charge. Now, if you see on my screen, I gain 3. That's because I have her Mindscape Cinema 1, so don't worry about that. You will get 1 point. The second attack is when you hold your basic attack button, which is the charged scissor strike. Essentially, Ellen will pause right before she closes her scissors, deal ice damage, and you'll gain 3 points of a flash freeze charge. As you can see on my screen, I get 6 of them. Don't worry, that's just because of the Mindscape Cinema. You will get 3 charges, and if the enemy is frozen, it will always trigger the shatter effect. The other way to get these charges is by using your X special attack. So if you have enough energy and you press your special attack button, you'll perform what's called tail swipe. You'll gain 1 charge after striking the enemy. You'll be invulnerable while using this skill, and you can follow up with the third basic attack hit, and I'll talk about the basic attack right after this because there is something important. But if you have enough energy after using the tail swipe attack, you can perform the X special attack Sharknami. It'll be a powerful series of slashes in an area that will deal massive ice damage, and again, you will gain another flash freeze charge, be invulnerable, and can follow up with the third hit of the basic attack. Now that you know how to gain these flash freeze charges, let's talk about consuming them. And one of the best ways to use them is going to be by using your basic attack. If you don't have any flash freeze charges, you'll deal physical damage to the target instead of ice damage. So we definitely want to avoid using our basic attack until we have those charges. And once you have them and you use your basic attack, that is called flash freeze trimming. Essentially, you'll just launch up to 3 attacks at the enemy, dealing ice damage, each one of those consuming 1 flash freeze charge, so 3 in total. And as long as you press or hold your basic attack button repeatedly, during the third attack, it'll extend the skill duration. And that all leads into her core passive Sharp Tooth. So when Ellen launches the charged scissor strike during the flash attack Arctic Ambush, or consumes a flash freeze charge to activate basic attack flash freeze trimming, which are the dash attack and the basic attack that I just talked about, the skill's crit damage is increased by 100%. And note, that is at max. And with her additional ability, Rising Storm, as long as you have a character that shares the same attribute or faction, when Ellen deals ice damage, subsequent ice damage increases by 3% for 10 seconds. This effect can stack up to 10 times, so that's 30%, and repeated triggers reset the duration. Now, outside of her dodge and gaining flash freeze charges, if you use the dash attack cold snap, you will consume another charge, which really isn't important. Under assist, the main thing to note is that she has a defense assist, and with the chain attack and the ultimate, just know the ultimate deals some crazy damage. Like once an enemy is stunned or you have enough debuffs on them, the amount of ice damage this ultimate can do is insane. So just as a quick damage rotation guide so you understand this, the first thing you need to do is enter roaming state, so just double tap your dodge button to start sprinting around. Use the dash attack Arctic Ambush by either pressing or holding your basic attack button to give yourself those flash freeze charges. You can also use your X special attack and then do the follow-up with Sharknami to deal some massive ice damage as well. And proceed with the basic attack as much as you can to use up those flash freeze charges, and make sure to hold down the button so her weapon spins as much as possible. If you need to do a perfect dodge in there and do the the dodge attack, the dash attack, stuff like that. Again, it's going to be totally situational, but again, we want to gain and use those flash freeze charges as much as possible. Again, as long as you use the basic attack or the charged scissor strike, you get 100% crit damage. If you activate her additional ability, you get a 30% ice damage bump. And the only other thing I'd recommend is that use your ultimate wisely. Again, I would try to use it when the enemy is stunned so you can deal even more damage, but either way, the ultimate is just going to deal some crazy damage overall. For Ellen's best W engine options, her signature, the Deep Sea Visitor, is easily the best pick here. Not only do you get a base attack and a crit rate percentage bump, but with its perk, Lord of the Seas, it increases ice damage by an additional 25%, and note, this is only at rank 1. Upon hitting an enemy with a basic attack, the equipper's crit rate increases by 10% for 8 seconds. When dealing ice damage with the dash attack, the equipper's crit rate increases by an additional 10% for 15 seconds. The duration of each effect is calculated separately. So just with her W engine and you performing these dash and basic attacks, you can get a 20% additional crit rate. Another S-rank engine option would be the Brimstone, which is Soldier 11 signature. You get a base attack and an attack percentage bump with this perk, Scorching Breath. Upon hitting an enemy with a basic attack, dash attack, or dodge counter, the equipper's attack increases by a certain percentage for 8 seconds, stacking up to 8 times. This effect can trigger once every 0.5 seconds, and the duration of each stack is calculated separately. If you don't have any S-rank engines, don't worry, there are a couple of A-rank ones you can use. The first one being Cannon Rotor, which you can get from the Battle Pass. You'll get a flat attack and a crit rate percentage bump with this perk, Oversized Barrel. You'll get an attack percentage increase, and upon landing a critical hit on an enemy, it will inflict an additional 200% of attack as damage. And again, this effect can trigger once every 7 seconds. Note, this is at rank 3, and the cooldown is pretty high regardless, but still, it's a good engine. If you got your hands on the Marauder Desire, which was an A-rank engine available through an event in 1.4, you get a base attack and a crit rate percentage bump with this perk, Get Everyone Fired Up. When an X special attack or chain attack hits an enemy, the equipper's attack increases by 9.6% for 8 seconds. When the target is under an attribute anomaly, this effect is increased by an additional 9.6%. And note, this is at max rank. The next one would be Gilded Blossom. Again, this one's from a previous event as well. You get a base attack and an attack percentage bump, and with this perk, Extraordinary Anti-Theft Measures, you get an attack percentage bump, and damage dealt by your X special attacks also gets an additional percentage bump. The next option would be Street Superstar. You get a base attack and an attack percentage bump with this perk, Flaming Bars. Whenever a squad member launches a chain attack, the equipper gains 1 charge stack, stacking up to 3 times. Upon activating their own ultimate, the equipper consumes all charge stacks, and each stack increases the skill's damage by a percentage, which is obviously going to be very good for Ellen's ultimate. The last one I'll mention is Starlight Engine. You get a base attack and an attack percentage bump with this perk, Knight's Combo. Launching a dodge counter or quick assist increases the equipper's attack by a certain percentage for 12 seconds. For Ellen's best drive disc, I would recommend 4-piece Polar Metal with either 2-piece Woodpecker Electro or Branch and Blade Song. With 4-piece Polar Metal, not only do you get a 10% increase to your ice damage, but it also increases the damage of your basic and dash attack by 20%. When any squad member inflicts freeze or shatter, this effect increases by an additional 20% for 12 seconds. So not only do you get an ice damage percentage bump, but you can get a 40% damage increase to your basic attack and your dash attack, which is obviously very good for Ellen. With 2-piece Woodpecker Electro, you get an 8% increase to your crit rate, and I would only recommend this disc if you don't have Ellen's engine. Obviously, you get a massive crit rate increase with her engine, so you don't necessarily need this disc, but it still is an option. But if you have a decent crit rate and or her signature engine, I would recommend 2-piece Branch and Blade Song because you get a 16% increase to your crit damage. For your disc main stats, at the 4th disc, you're either looking for crit rate or crit damage. At the 5th disc, you're looking for ice damage. And at the 6th, you're going to want attack percentage. And for your disc substats, you're looking for crit damage, crit rate, and any attack you can get. For Ellen's best team options, if you're free to play, your best bet is using Ambi and Sukaku with the Penguin Boo. Sukaku can increase Ellen's attack and ice damage stats, and even though you won't be able to activate Ambi's additional ability with this team, she's still the best free-to-play stun unit that you can use. For Ellen's premium stun team, pairing her up with Lighter and Sukaku with the Shark Boo is fantastic. For those who didn't pull for Lighter, not only does he buff fire agents, he also buffs ice agents. So not only having a great stun character, being able to provide the ice damage buffs, and Sukaku providing those ice damage and attack stats, again, it's going to make Ellen an absolute powerhouse. If you wanted the double DPS team for Ellen, pairing her up with Miyabi and Sukaku with the Shark Boo actually works. Miyabi's damage type is considered Frost, and even though it is considered ice damage and scales off that, it's its own separate attribute anomaly, which is pretty cool. And being able to use Miyabi's charged attack and then switching to a different character to do even more damage at the same time, still having Sukaku buffing, both of their attack and ice damage, That's going to be fantastic. The last team I'll mention is the Victoria housekeeping team, pairing Ellen up with Lycon and Rena. Lycon's still a great stun character. Again, he does fall under ice, so we can build out the anomaly faster. He has an increased percentage damage when the target is stunned. And then with Rena, again, being able to perform the quick assist, have her on the field and off the field very quickly is going to help Ellen out. The last thing I want to talk about is Ellen's Mindscape Cinema and if you should pull for multiple copies of her. Her M1 Glacial Omen, when you use the Swift Scissor Strike from the dash attack, instead of getting 1 charge, you get 3 charges. Same thing with the Charge Scissor Strike. Instead of getting 3 charges, you actually get 6. And for each Flash Freeze charge consumed, Ellen's crit rate is increased by 2% for 15 seconds, stacking up to 6 times. The duration of each stack is calculated separately. Her M2, Arctic Ocean Predator. The third hit of the basic attack Flash Freeze trimming can directly be followed up with the X Special Attack Shark Nami. When using the X Special Attack, each Flash Freeze charge increases the current attack's crit rate by 20% up to a maximum of 60%. Her M3 Overtime Intolerant just gives a +2 level bump to all of her skills. Her M4 Endless Hoarfrost, when a squad member freezes or stuns an enemy, Ellen gains 6 Flash Freeze charges and the Quick Charge effect. She also recovers 4 energy. The energy recovery effect can trigger once every 10 seconds. Her M5 Adequate Sleep also gives a +2 level bump to all of her skills. And lastly, her M6 The Feast Begins. When Ellen uses her X Special Attack, a chain attack, or gains a quick charge, her pen ratio increases by 20% for 6 seconds. Now note, pen ratio ignores a certain percentage of the target's defense, so you can deal more damage. She also gains 1 stack of The Feast Begins up to a maximum of 3. With 3 stacks of it, using a Charge Scissor Strike during the dash attack consumes all stacks, increasing the damage of the current attack by 250%. So that Charge Scissor Strike can deal some massive damage. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I still think Ellen's one of the strongest characters in the game. The only problem is the timing of her rerun, in my opinion. We just came off of Miyavi's banner, and as we know, even though she's an anomaly character, she's one of the strongest characters in the game. She might as well function as an anomaly and an attack character, and she has her own damage type, which is just absolutely insane. But also, we're getting Astra Yao at the same time, who's number 1, the first limited banner, support character. She's also one of the few ether characters we're going to have, and she's going to be able to heal and increase our character's attack, which is just going to be absolutely crazy. So I understand if people want to skip on Ellen at the moment, but if she does come back, in a couple of months, maybe look into pulling for her. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is my 1.5 Zenless Zone Zero updated Ellen build guide. Let me know in the comments, is there something that you like using on Ellen that I didn't mention in the video? And are you going to be pulling for her alongside of Astra, or are you just going to be sticking with Astra? Or are you going to be saving for when Evelyn comes out in the second half of the update with Qingyi's rerun? We have a lot of great characters this time around. There's definitely going to be some hard choices we're going to have to make. So I'm still debating on whether I should pull for Astra or not. If I was a smart guy, I would definitely pull for her because she's going to be very good for a long time. But we'll see how it goes. In any event, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like on it, subscribe to the channel, and turn on that bell next to notifications so you don't miss out on any other Zenless Zone Zero content we have coming out on the channel. If you didn't know, we live stream here on the channel and also over on Twitch. That link will be in the description. There are drops occasionally for Zenless Zone Zero, so if you want some extra polychrome and some other rewards, be sure to tune in to the stream. Also, be sure to join my Discord. If you got a great stat roll, if you have a good build going for a character, if you have a clip you want to share, we have an entire channel dedicated to Zenless Zone Zero. But we also talk about a variety of other games on top of PC tech, anime, and more. Lastly, if you want to help support the channel even more, you can look into becoming a member. Now, if you don't know what a membership is, it's essentially like a Twitch subscription. Granted, it's cheaper over here on YouTube, but you're going to get access to the exclusive emotes, the monthly badges, and other cool stuff, including early access to all my long-form videos. So if you'd like more information, all you have to do is press the join button next subscribe, and that'll give you a rundown with all the details you need. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been your boy. We'll catch you in the next video.